Hello and season's greetings, see the tree, from cold and gray and nasty New York. I'm sure you're having a much better time in Los Angeles. I hope you enjoyed the 2 days that we spent together. We certainly did, and we could see enormous potential in what you guys can do at Spectrum One in Los Angeles on your own. But 2 days is not really enough to get the whole thing down. As you know, when we did the other boot camp, it ran for a week, and most of these times we do it for 4 or 5 days, but we only had 2 days, and we really only got to the halfway point. And generally at the halfway point, everybody makes a lot of mistakes and messes stuff up, and even though you can see it on the screen, the mistakes that you made, and we can critique it, it doesn't go the full distance. So I talked to Scott and Cater, and I said it would be really great if you guys could go and do a second piece based on all the things that you've learned, and a couple of things I'm going to tell you right now, and they seem to be in agreement. I think it would be a great thing, great exercise for you to do, and if you do it and cut the pieces, I'm only looking for a minute like last time, but if you do it and cut the pieces, I'll be happy, or Lisa and I will be happy to critique it and send the comments back to you and Scott and Cater, and I think it will help your careers and the station and the network in the long run. The essence of a great, you want people to come back and watch Spectrum One all the time. And the essence of great storytelling and great journalism and great filmmaking is not really about stories per se and not about topics. It's about people. It's about characters. People relate to another person. They relate to a character. That's why people go to the movies. That's why great novels are made about, people and not topics. And that's what great television can be about. And that's what great journalism is really about at the end of the day, because people relate to people. So for this second exercise, what I want you to do is I want you to find a person to profile. Right? It's fairly simple to do. Last time you went to some location and it turned out to be fairly, amorphous, whether it was the butcher shop or the ice cream thing or something else. It was just a bunch of pictures and it was great as a shooting exercise. But this time I want you to find a story about a person. And when I want you to go to the location wherever that person is and do the same thing, find the 7 shots, and then I want you to cast the film. Casting is really important. You have to find somebody that the viewer is going to be interested in. If you're interested in them, the viewer is going to be interested in them. And then I want you to follow them for, an hour or 2 hours, wherever they go, whatever they do. The more they can go places, the more they can even just walk down the street or go from location A to location B, the more interesting and compelling your story is going to be. Because people, A, they like the notion of going somewhere, and B, going somewhere conveys this notion of something is going to happen. I think we talked about it in the class where I said if you did a profile of a cellist, for example, and she said, well, meet me in my rehearsal room at 3 o'clock, and you went to her rehearsal room, and she just sat there going, na, 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 it gets boring quickly. But if you said to her, I know you rehearse at 3, but let's meet at 2:30 or 2 o'clock, and I'll meet you at your house, and you went to her house, and you then followed her from her house in her car, and you drove to the rehearsal place, people who look at that feel like, well, something is going to happen here. And so when she gets to the room and starts playing, they feel like there's a payoff, that they've been waiting for something important. This is called arc of story. How do you shoot that? Okay, that's critical stuff. So you go to her house and she's serving breakfast to her kids or whatever, and you know how to shoot that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, she's making the eggs. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the eating, and then she gets ready to leave. Every single person leaves the house the same way. How do they do it? They get up and they go out the door. So you know this is going to happen. Shooting video is a lot like playing a racket sport. If you ever played tennis or squash or badminton or something like that, the trick in a racket sport is not to chase the ball around. The trick is to anticipate where the ball is going to be so you can get there first. That's what gives you control over the game. It's the same in video. The more you can anticipate where the next shot is going to be and get there first, the more control you're going to have over the shot, and as a result, the whole sequence. So let's go back to you're having breakfast, and then she finishes breakfast with the kids, and she's going to get up to leave. Where is she going? She's going to go out the door, right? You know this already, right? It's going to happen. So you get to the door first. And how is she going to open the door? She's going to do like that on the doorknob. So you want to point the camera or your phone at the doorknob and get this shot of her hand turning the doorknob. That communicates to everybody that she's leaving. It's a fantastic shot, and it's simple for storytelling. If the first shot is the close-up on the hands, the next shot is going to be her face, and then the next shot is going to be a wide shot. Now here's the secret. Let her walk out of frame. She leaves the frame. The viewer says, where did she go? I mean, they know she's leaving, but they go, where did she go? It's subconscious. So you get in front of her house, run down the path, get in front of her house, and stand right there, and let her walk right towards you. Unless she's a complete idiot, she's not going to walk into you. She's going to walk towards you and walk out of frame. Again, the viewer goes, where'd she go? You turn around, and you get her going to her car. Which car is hers? You asked her at breakfast. You said, how are you getting to the rehearsal place? She said, I'm driving. Where's your car? It's the blue Mazda. Every single person opens a car door the same way. They grab the handle and they pull it open. You know this is going to happen. So get your shot on the doorknob of the car, get the hands to the face, to the wide. She gets in the car, you get in the car with her. Every single person starts the car the same way. They turn the ignition key, or now they push the button. Close up on the hands, close up on the face, pull back to the wide. She drives down the thing. You get a shot out the windshield. If you want to get really creative, get 2 blocks ahead of her and have her drive the car out of frame. You've seen this a million times. When she arrives at the rehearsal place, same thing. Out of the car, in the door, in the rehearsal place. Sequence, sequence, sequence. From the point of view of the viewer, now they're going on an adventure somewhere. From your point of view, when you go to edit this thing, you can compress or expand however you want. You can have her just walk out of the house and suddenly appear at the rehearsal place. Walk out of the house and get in the car. Walk out of the house, get in the car, and drive away. Long or short. The thing about motion in film is the less you move the camera, the more movement you get in the film, from cut to cut to cut to cut. The more you chase her around and not let her out of frame, the less cuttable the thing is. It's a little counterintuitive. So when you go out and shoot this next piece, I want you to find a person and I want you to follow them. I don't care where they go. They can go to lunch, they can go get a cup of coffee. You saw when we did the session, the thing about the guy at the comic book drawer, when she went back and she reshot him at the hamburger place and then getting up and leaving and going to the comic book store, it gave the piece a sense of motion, a sense of something is happening, a sense there's action. If you watch movies or TV shows, you'll see people do this all the time. On Law and Order, they're always driving somewhere. Cop shows, they're chasing somebody. Every adventure, every movie, people are riding somewhere. Law and Order, Mission Impossible, they're always driving somewhere. In real life, cops and lawyers, they don't drive so much, they don't go many places. But in the movies, people are always going somewhere all the time, on motorcycles, in cars, in boats, whatever. It gives people a sense of something is happening. And that sense of adventure and that action is translated to the viewer and makes them go, whoa, I have to find out what happens. That's your most important job here. Get a character they can relate to and give them a sense that something is going to happen and it's worth hanging around until the end. This is arc of story. And then at the end, when she plays the cello or whatever happens, or he meets the guy at the comic book store, meets all his favorite, action heroes or whatever it is, that's the payoff. And then people think, that was worth investing my time in. Let's do that again. So much better than simply sitting in somebody's house, doing some static interview and then going away. That's boring. So for this exercise, I want you to find a character and go and shoot them doing something and going somewhere. Of course, there should be a story. And here's another really important thing to remember. In my experience, every single person has at least one story to tell. And it may, in fact, not be the story that you're shooting. So let them open up to you. We did a thing on a florist once, and it turned out the florist actually was an opera singer. I mean, we wouldn't know if we hadn't asked. And the guy did this great performance while he was arranging the flowers. So I want you to get inside, open up to people, get intimate with them, get emotional with them. Let's care about them. And it cut 1 minute. It's a 1 minute piece, but it's a story, but it's really about a person. If you can do all of your stories about people as opposed to news items, when we saw the thing about the school stories in Britain, you saw the press conference told us the news item. But the really interesting thing was not the news item or the press conference, which at the BBC we dropped entirely. What made the story compelling was the characters, the personalities, the kid running down the hall. That's what I want you to do. And if you can care about the person, then your interest in the news item will follow. If you start with the news item and kind of jam the person in there as just a talking head, it's going to be death. So essentially, I want you to think you're making a little movie about a day in the life of a person who happens to be encountering this significant news story, whatever the story is. That's kind of an abstraction. Now, I'm also sending links to 2 different pieces I want you to really look at. The first one is a video that we shot at the BBC. It was done by somebody just like you and exactly the same. She'd never done anything before. She was a researcher at the BBC Natural History Unit, but it's a profile, a little day in the life of a bridge tender. I want you to watch it for two things. One, notice how she gets motion and the character keeps walking out of frame and it gets this idea of going somewhere. And two, it has a great inherent arc of story, which I won't tell you about, but you'll take a look at it. The other piece I want you to look at is this profile of a heroin addict that was done by the BBC health correspondent, who until then had actually went out with crews and just interviewed people. It's a fantastic story. He spends a couple of hours with a heroin addict, but it's character and arc of story. Notice the way it's shot, but really notice the way the character drives the story as opposed to the issue of addiction. We all know addiction's a big problem today. It was when we did that thing. Nothing has changed. But this, instead of doing something with a bunch of statistics and the number of addicts and opiate and stuff like that, this is a small story about just one family, but it really makes you care about the issue per se. My mentor in this business, Fred Friendly, who you may have heard of, always told me small stories work the best, and small stories about people work the best. So take a look at the two samples, go out and shoot me 1 minute. You shouldn't, now your shooting ratio should be around 8-to-1 or 10-to-1, so you shouldn't shoot more than 10 minutes of material to make this 1 minute work. Go shoot the thing, cut it together, send it to me, and I'll send back the notes. This is really important stuff. You guys are gonna do great. Bye.